Okay, so today we have Wendy at my house for the recording. And I'm very happy to have Wendy because Wendy seems like an interesting person. Yay! And she's also the first woman on my podcast. Everybody else has been either couples or individual men like Drew. And that's something I'm going to cut out. But so, my friend Wendy and I, we met at the Global Food Garden through my good friend Ricardo, who brought her over, and I was like, hi, and she was like, hi, and I was like, where are you from? And she was like, I'm from Switzerland. Hi, where are you from? And here we are. Wendy, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, so my name is Wendy, and as you know, I'm from Switzerland. And I work as a language teacher. My mom is from Senegal, my father is from Switzerland, and I've been here in Mexico since 2021. But I already lived here in 2018 for 6 months, where I did like an internship as a German teacher.
You're from Senegal, you're from Switzerland, and you've already been in Mexico. Tell me, how many languages do you speak?
My mom speaks French, so we grew up speaking French. But my father speaks German, Swiss German. So the school I went to, everything the region is Swiss German. I spoke French at home and I watched English TV. And now I've learned Spanish here in Mexico. So it's been like, if you say Swiss German and German are different languages, it would be like 5 languages maybe.
Okay, sorry. I'm gonna put my dummy cap on. And could you explain to me the difference between German and Swiss German?
Of course. So the thing is like, I always say Swiss German is like German, but time is money. And we Swiss people, we like money. So we don't have the time to pronounce shit. So we're like, for example, in German, you would say the house, like das Haus. But in Swiss German, we're like, no, cut the vowels, cut the crap. We need like just the important stuff. So it's Sus, done. So the thing is, for us, we need to learn High German because it's the official language. Every paper is in High German. But when we speak Swiss German, and German people don't actually understand Swiss German. Most, like, if you're from the south, yes, but from the north, they have no idea what I'm talking about. And even my sister, she once went to Germany and she spoke Swiss German, and a lady on the train was like, is this Afrikaans? No.
But the lower form. But why is it called High German? Why does it gotta be high?
It's because, I don't know, for me, honestly, if I hear High German, because some people, they tell me, like, you don't actually like speaking, like, High German or, like, the official German. I'm like, no, because it sounds very proper, and I'm a mess, so I can't do this in my free time, you know? But yeah, I think maybe because, like, High German, it's also Germany has, like, dialect, and I think High German is just generally the one you hear on TV, the nice one. So yeah, that's where it comes from, I think.
How about your French? The French in Senegal, I imagine, is also a little bit different.
Well, first of all, my French is a bit of a mess because I only speak it with my mom. And now with Spanish, it's just a mess. I cannot talk to my mom anymore. I'm just like, Mom, you need to learn Spanish. I can't do this. But generally, the African French, I think what I've heard from my siblings who also have French classes, that they've been told it's more old-fashioned. Because, yeah, it makes sense. French came there and it didn't evolve the way that the French in France did. It's the same with English, that they say, oh, I'm not sure, maybe you need to cut that out because I'm not sure about this next information. But what I've heard is that the American English is actually older, the dialect, than the British English because it came here and it didn't evolve the way that the British English did.
I will fact check that. Please. I want to check because that might explain why we have certain, like why we say ain't in certain situations, for example. But based on what you just said, I did hear that that's what happened with the Quebecois French. Like the French arrives to Canada and they're like, okay, well, this is the French we speak. And then the French in France changed and the Quebecois didn't.
Honestly, again, this might be offensive. But again, the Quebecois for me is like, I've been to Montreal and I was like, I speak French. This should not be an issue. Couldn't talk at all. I was like, please speak English to me. Like, I don't know what you're saying. And it feels like sometimes it's like, an English person speaking French, but they're also drunk. This is a little bit Québécois for me. But they're lovely people, though.
But they're lovely people. But they're lovely people. So based on all of this, you're basically saying if somebody is learning German from a textbook and, you know, watching movies and blah, 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 they should not go to Switzerland to practice their German. That's basically what you're saying.
I mean, yeah. Like, if you go to Switzerland, if you're like north, you might have a chance. The more you go south, the more you're just going to be lost. Because, for example, Bern, the Swiss German, is a mixture of French and Swiss German. So they say, like, for example, for my father, which would be mein Vater, or mein Papi, they would say mein Père, mon Père. Oh. And yeah, no, go to Germany, don't go to Switzerland. Because it's also a thing, because if I had students in Switzerland that learn Swiss German first, and of course, it's a spoken language, so we don't have much grammar. We're just like, whatever. The moment people understand what I'm saying, I'm good. So yeah, you go there, you're like, I know my prepositions and everything, and that's not going to help you on these streets. So no, go to Germany to learn German, and then once you have a good basis of German, you can try Swiss German, but don't do it the other way around, because you're going to get comfortable in Swiss German, and then it's going to be hard to switch to the proper way of saying things.
Switzerland. You grew up in Switzerland, right? Okay. Did you ever grow up in Senegal?
No, because we were so many siblings, so it was a bit pricey to like pay the ticket for everyone. They're just like, nah. My parents decided to have a farm in France where we spend all our vacation instead of going to Senegal, because it's just cheaper with the car. But I would get car sick a lot. Sorry, Mom, if you hear this. No, but when I was like in 2016, I think, I went to live in Senegal for 2 months, just to like know the culture and like where I'm from and my family and stuff. Yeah, I think you can relate, right? Being like a mixture of many things, you're like, I want to know about every single part of me.
2 months in Senegal. That's a long time to stay in one single trip. Tell me how that was for you. What was that experience like?
So it was my first trip. It was my first plane ride. It was my first day alone. Like after high school, I was like, I'm a girl. I'm an independent woman. Whew. And then I went there, and it was Ramadan. So I arrived. We didn't really plan this. I arrived, and they're like, hi, Wendy. Tomorrow we start fasting. Have fun. I'm like, what? And it was the first month was a bit like discovering new things, and also I used to be like the darkest person in the room, and there I went to the lightest person in the room. So that was also very interesting. And also I got scammed some, like of course I got scammed, because I'm gullible. People tell me like, I need money. I'm like, I have money. Coincidence. Take it. So, but it was very interesting. It was also really nice to see, like, because I didn't grow up Muslim, but I could see my family doing all the traditional part. Even more during ramadan, we did do all the little festivities and like how it works, and they explained everything to me. And it was really nice to see the religion, how it works. Because when you grow up in Europe, you're just like, oh, I don't know, this is so far away, the Islam and Muslim, I don't know. They're just doing their thing over there. But once you are in a country and you experience it yourself, it's like, no, this is actually, I see it now. It kind of makes sense. So yeah, Ramadan was a fun experience. And then I got to see all my millions of cousins and aunts and uncles that I've never met before, but they were so warm when they received me, and also out later the rest of my family. It was really nice.
You said something about how back in Europe, religion, particularly Islam, was just kind of this thing over there, this abstract thing over there. And coming back to Senegal with your family and seeing the rituals and having them explain everything to you in French, I assume? Yeah. And that it was, you started kind of to see the sense of it. Could you tell me more about that? Like, what exactly clicked for you?
I don't know. I need to think about that one. It's like maybe the thing with the Ramadan, like with the fasting, that you just wake up early and you just eat everything you can, and then you don't eat the whole day. But also like at the end of the day, when it's like, it was always at 7:45 where it stopped the fasting. And wherever you were, people give you food and they give you water because you haven't had any the whole day. And it was just nice to see like the whole community coming together. And I think just generally because in Switzerland, it's a lot of like individuality. Like you live by yourself, you have your family consists of your father, mother, and you, like very nuclear. And there you have like more the living in a little, like the whole town knows each other, everyone helps each other. And it's also, I think, part of the religion. Like in Ramadan, it was like, yeah, of course, it's Ramadan, we have to. There was also like a thing of we didn't have water for a while and people were getting angry, but it's also like, oh, but it's Ramadan, we have to forgive and forget. So they were waiting after Ramadan to get angry, and they're like, oh, just wait, just wait today. And the water came back a day before Ramadan ended, so it was fine.
Okay, so for those folks who are listening who are not exactly familiar with what Ramadan is, other than that it's like an Islamic holiday, could you tell us a little bit what Ramadan is in your perspective?
Ooh, I don't know if I can explain it well because I haven't really practiced it myself. But from what I gather, it's just like a month where you only eat when the sun, like when there's no sun. So you have to eat before sunrise, and you eat after sunset. And also like during the day, you have to do your prayers. And of course, you have to appreciate, basically it force you for a month to appreciate life and everything you have and everyone you have. And of course, like the religious part of it, which I cannot get really into because I'm not really sure. It was also in Wolof, which is the native tongue there, and I was just like, sure.
Oui.
I think all I learned in Wolof is like house, woman, and come here. Anyway. So in this time you have this also as a woman, when you have your period, I don't know, I'm not sure if I can mention this on the art. When you have your period, you cannot really do it. So you have like a week off, but you have to do it later in the year, which is also like, if it's in summer where the days are like longer, you can just say like, I'm just going to do this week in winter when the days are shorter. And there you go. Yeah. And yeah, I think it's a lot about appreciation, about life, and yeah, I think that's it. And not eating and drink. I think eating is fine, but the not drinking, that's a rough one, honestly.
Yes, I remember scrolling through memes, Muslim memes. Don't ask me why I was scrolling through Muslim memes, but during Ramadan, it's like when your friend asks you for the 5th time, not even water? And seriously, not even water?
Not even water. I also loved like my cousin, she did it very great because she took her prayer mat and she just took a nap during work. She was like, I might as well just sleep. And also some people take it like a reset. My uncle was like, I'm going to reset my life. I'm going to be a bigger person. I'm going to be the best person I can be. And that held on for like a day. And then he just slept until 5 p.m. And then he would wake up and it's like, all right, 2 more hours until sundown. And then I can eat again.
That's all so fascinating to me. And you're right. Like, I do understand that sentiment of growing up in the quote unquote West and then wanting to see where you come from, know your kin, see where you fall in that community. And I also understand very much that what you just said about, being the lightest one in the room to being the darkest one in the room, because not so much in America, but for those of you that don't know, I'm half Mexican and half Mongolian. Mongolia is north of China, Mexico is Mexico, and I am to a certain degree darker than some of my Asian counterparts. Mongolians can be, we come in different sizes and colors. I don't know if that sounds wrong, but you know what I mean. Like Mongolians, we're very, very diverse. There's different ethnic groups as well. So there are those that are a little bit darker skinned, and I could be one of that ethnic group possibly, but not so much. Actually, in my family, I'm a little bit on the darker side because my Mexican side is quite dark skinned. And when I come to Mexico and compared to my family, relatively to my cousins, I'm the lighter one, and of course a little more Asian. And I remember coming home and just trying to fit in, and you do fit in a way because it is your family, but then there are certain differences that I would feel that I could only pinpoint it to have something to do with my skin color or something to do with the way I was interacting with people, because also having been raised in the United States, my mannerisms were different than those around me. Everybody had a certain way of behaving, a certain code by which they were behaving that was particular to that town or that community, particularly southern Mexico. My family is from Puebla. And also the same in Mongolia, you know, that we have our social etiquette, so to speak. And then I would go in there with all my American mannerisms, and I'd be like, wait, why is it really quiet in this room? What did I say? You know? And I'm wondering, did you go through something similar where your mannerisms were maybe European or quite Swiss?
I think so. I always said, like, I don't really feel Swiss. Like, the whole time I was in Switzerland, I was like, this is not really my country. Like, I'm not part of this. But then I went to other countries and I noticed, like, I'm actually really Swiss. So it's like the little things, like, I miss throwing toilet paper in the toilet and flushing it, like, every day. Or bread. I miss bread. But it's also, like, stuff I realized, like, even with German people, now I work with a lot of German people, and they're a lot more direct than I am. So I remember, once there was like they can just say, like, no, I don't feel like doing this, thank you. Meanwhile, I would be like, oh, if you really want to, like, I can try. Like, yeah, we can go to a park if you really want to go to a park. And my German friend is just like, no, Wendy, I really don't want to do this. Do it by yourself. Like, oh my God. So, and also, like, certain things because in Africa, I think, like, warm countries, they just generally have this, that it's too hard to do things. It's too hard to be on time. You do it when you can, right? Mm-hmm. So I love this thing in Senegal, it was like, Inshallah. Mm-hmm. And they would always, it's like, if God allows it. Mm-hmm. And for example, like, the secretary of my uncle, she would go home, she was like, see you tomorrow, Inshallah. And I was like, what is that? And she means, like, if I don't get run over, if I don't die, if I don't, like, break my leg, I'll be here tomorrow. Mm-hmm. But if any of this happens, God didn't want me to come, so I'm not coming. So I was like, I'm gonna keep that one. I'm gonna keep this. And here in Mexico, it's the same with the ahorita. Like, yeah, sí, ahorita lo hago. Like, sure, Jen, sure you will. So I feel like this is something I'm very Swiss about, like, punctuality. I'm learning to not, like, every time, even today, I was, like, late. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so late. But I mean, Mexican culture, I could have been later. I could have come 3 hours from now. So yeah, I realize I'm very Swiss with punctuality and, like, simple pleasures in life.
If it's any consolation, I didn't even realize you were late until you texted me. I'm like, oh shit, it's Saturday. Oh yeah, it's today. If it's any consolation, you were perfectly on time.
Perfect.
So, simple pleasures. What are your simple pleasures that make you Swiss? Is it like bread? Like, what are we talking about here?
Bread. It's the bread. Like, I didn't know we had good bread until I didn't have it. It's the bomb.com, the bread. And yeah, the flushing of the toilet, that's a nice little pleasure. And also, I think, like, I don't know, I have to think about that one. Like, chocolate, maybe. Mm-hmm. Like, chocolate is so available. Public transport, that's the one. Like, just, you go to a bus station, you know the bus is gonna be on time. And you're like, all right, it's 10 after 5. Oh, there is a bus. And here in Mexico, it's just like, I'll just stand on the street and hope. Pray, maybe there'll be a bus today.
Like the Inshallah, primero Dios. Right. Wait, but I'm curious, not so much about the bread or the transportation. What's wrong with the toilet flushing?
I mean, it's not, I think it's a thing, like, from privilege, that when you're I remember the first time when I had to come to Mexico, there was, like, I got, like, a little paper from the school I was starting, and they had, like, a little paragraph that said, like, don't flush the toilet paper. And I was like, what do I do with the toilet paper then? Like, where do I put it? And then I had to, like, ask my Latino friends, like, what happens to the toilet paper? And they're like, you just throw it in the bin. Like, there's a bin? And sorry, I don't know if I should whisper, so Yeah. And then I came here and yeah, there's a bin. And sometimes at the beginning you forget and you're like, whoop, and just one piece of toilet paper and the whole thing is clogged and you're like, this is horrible. How do I explain this? But again, like you get so used to it with time and it's really like, it's not that bad after a while. But sometimes I go back to Switzerland and I have like this moment on the toilet and I'm like, where do I put the paper now? Where's the bin? Oh yeah, right. I always feel very, very weird because in every household I'm like, wherever I am, because there's like the houses you can flush it and houses you cannot. And I always feel like I need to ask the host like, can I flush my toilet paper or what's the deal here? Like I wish they would just have like a, like there's the Wi-Fi is blah blah and you can flush the toilet paper. Like just a little sign somewhere, maybe in the bathroom. Like what am I supposed to do with this piece of paper, please?
Unless you have bidets. Y'all don't do bidets in Switzerland, or you do?
Not really. I had in the farm we had in France, we had a bidet, but as kids we were just like, oh, it's for washing feet. But in Switzerland, not really, I think. Maybe it's coming back now, but when I grew up, we didn't really use it, no. A good thing are like in Senegal, there's like the water thingies to water plants, but it's like in the toilet. And they also don't have toilet paper. You're like, you go in and you're like, what's all this then? What am I supposed to do now? So yeah, or also, I don't know, in Mongolia, do they use, like what do they use? Last toilet conversation, and then we can move on.
Well, in Mongolia, if you're living in the city, it's just like everywhere else. It's proper toilet with proper toilet paper, and you can flush it. It's fancy stuff, and Mongolia, we're very good about hygiene when it comes to things like that. But if you're out in the country, it's all natural, baby. Grass. I might just cut this entire section out. But yeah, in the city, it's perfectly like regular, just like we have in North America or Europe or anywhere. And some houses do have bidets. Like my family has a bidet. Because we fancy like that. But anyway, yeah, enough of that toilet talk. Oh, wait, but one last point.
First time a woman in a podcast and it's all potty talk. Yay!
Breaking stereotypes. Who said it's only boys who can talk about toilets? My one last thing, though, is that because I knew that such a thing as bidets existed, I just never understood that COVID craze for toilet paper. That I did not understand. I'm like, literally take a water bottle and just go crazy.
It's also a thing, like, I always thought, I think it's the Western mentality. I was like, everything that's not toilet paper is just disgusting. Like, how can you use anything that's not that? But then I remember I watched like some kind of YouTube video and someone was like, well, if someone puts shit on your arm and you're just gonna like wipe it away with paper and that's it? Like, no, you're gonna wash that. You have to wash it. So of course, like, water makes a lot of sense. It's like more hygienic than just paper in bidets as well. But yeah, I always grew up thinking like toilet paper is the one thing and everything else is just disgusting. But no.
I think it's our culture of consumerism. We need to buy something to feel clean. Food for thought. Anyway, so moving on from that wonderful topic, that was super, super educational. You said you were teaching German in Mexico. At a school or independently?
I work at a school, at a German school, which is for like not in a school, a public school, but a private school for German.
And how do you find the students when it comes to learning German? Like, what Mexicans? I always feel like Mexicans want to learn English. And after that, they want to learn French. Like, that's the impression I have. Like, because, like, there's, like, the Alliance Française, like, nearby in Querétaro. And I've met quite a lot of Francophiles in Mexico. But I've never met anyone that speaks German or that was interested in speaking German. Maybe I just haven't met them. But now I know there's, like, a whole German school and there's German teachers. Tell me more about that whole subculture community.
So it is, like... I also, when I told people in Switzerland I'm going to be a German teacher in Mexico, they're like, why? Like, why would they? The thing is, Mexico has a lot of like German entreprise. companies. And yeah, they have like programs where they send Mexican people to Germany, also for like people who enfermeras.
Nurses?
Yeah, nurses. They need them in Germany, so they get them from Mexico. So yeah, there's a lot of people who I think like students who want to learn German, so they can do like some studies in Germany, and also like older people that just work in German companies, or maybe they have like a cuñado. Sorry, I'm mixing languages, but yeah, they have like some family, like somebody in the family married a German person, and that's why they want to learn German.
It's interesting how easily we can get stuck in our little bubbles. So I guess I've been in the English-French bubble for obvious reasons. Like I'm an English teacher, my partner is a French teacher, and I've just been, I guess, interacting with people that want to learn English or French. But then now, like between you and Pedro, I'm like, yeah, it is true. There are a lot of German companies here doing business and people who want to go to Germany.
There's also like the schools for kids, like the Colegio Suizo or Colegio Austriaco, where the parents, I think they send the kids there to have more opportunities in life, for even more for like studying in Germany or Switzerland or Austria later in life.
And how do you find that your students, that your Mexican students find German? Like, is it relatively easy for them, or like are there commonalities between Spanish and German that helps them out, or what are some of the patterns that you notice as an educator?
I think I love my Mexican students. They're so like, they, even if they hate it, they'll try, and I love that about them. It's just great. I think they find it quite hard, but I always try to make them understand like every language is hard, because they come to class and they're like, this is the hardest language I'm ever gonna learn, like nothing is harder than German. But then I tell them like, listen, German has 2 past tenses, you guys have 6. Imagine my daily struggle just to tell you something I did yesterday. So yeah, it's very like, you have to just put it into context. Is that the word? That German might be hard for them, but Spanish is also very hard, and they mastered it, so it's not impossible.
I wanna know more about your experience learning Spanish, because you do speak Spanish with your friends. I've seen you in action, and not only do you speak the Spanish, you speak slang. I've heard you. I'm like, I need to write this down. Like, I don't think I know that one, and I don't, because I never picked up that slang, and now I'm like learning little by little. But I've heard you, girl. So tell me, like, how did you learn, and how did you get to this level?
Oh my God. So I thought about it before you mentioned something. I was like, yeah, you said because people want to learn slang before they want to learn the language. And this is exactly what happened to me, because I love learning by copying people. So I just learned the slang before I learned the Spanish, because I was just listening to my friends, and I was like with a pen and paper, like, all right. And then, of course, like, way, no manches way, and ¿qué onda? And stuff like this. And I was like, even how they say it, because it sounds so fun. I'm like, I noticed, I'm always imagining like a surfer guy being like, no mames, way. I see. And this is how I imagine myself speaking Spanish. Like, I'm a different person in Spanish than I am in English. And a thing that also helped me is the first time I was here, I watched a lot of Casa de las Flores, because it's, it's very Mexican, and you just pick up things. And there was like this one, have you seen it?
No.
Oh my God. There's like this one lady, and she's like, tú no eres mi papá, na 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 na. And I was like, oh, this is great. I understand everything she's saying. And I went to Spanish class, and I was like, I just watched Casa de las Flores. What's going on with her voice? And my teacher was like, I don't know. Nobody knows. She invented this accent for this series. But if you're learning Spanish, great. Like, you have to listen to this woman. She's amazing. Like, very slow and clear. And yeah, I love the point where I was making. Just copying people. It's also like, first of all this, and second of all, like, you have to watch things that you find funny because you want to copy it. That's also how I learned English. I just watched a lot of, back in the day, Dave Chappelle, and me and my siblings would always make these jokes with each other that we saw in the stand-up. And yeah, I think this, and of course learning slang was also not good, because now I cannot talk formally. Like, even to grandma on the street, I'm gonna be like, no mames way. I'm like, This is not. And I've seen my friends like going behind the person like, shut up, Wendy, shut up. Don't.
No mames, señora.
Exactly.
You gotta be proper. You gotta be respectful. No mames, señora.
Exactly. It's even like stuff like, you know, like, oh, qué chido, like, how cool. And I don't know which one to use with like, for like, qué padre, qué chido, qué cool. Mm-hmm. Which one is the formal one? Which one is the proper one? Now I don't know. But I can talk slang, but I cannot talk formal. That's my issue. I think like you should do some pop culture in the language, but also go to classes at the same time. And also I think it's good if you go like to a class, but you also, for me it was Casa de las Flores, and then I could go to Spanish class and tell her like, oh my God, I just saw this and this and that in the episode. This and that happened. So it's also like you get a lot of like what's it called? Not active, passive vocabulary by doing these kinds of things. And it also helps a lot like to vibe with the people on the street. If you can say like, I watched your show. I watched Chavo del Ocho and I didn't get it, but I tried. So
So you tried watching Chavo del Ocho? What did you think?
It's funny to some. No. I get it, like I can see it's a thing when you grow up with it, because I think it's funny if you understand. It's a lot of like context jokes and a lot of like language jokes. So if you watch it as someone who's learning Spanish, you're like, and you see all your Mexican friends are just losing it. You're like, well, all right, I guess it's funny. But yeah, I guess it's in every culture. You have like this one TV show that just everyone grew up with, and you just growing up with it is half of the joke. So so if you don't grow up with it, you just get into it and you're like, what's going on with these people? But at least give it a try, I say. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome that you tried it, because I also kind of delved into Chavo del Ocho, and of course I grew up in the US for the most part, and then I'm like, I think like it's one of those things you had to be there for. You got to be there for it.
Yes, you definitely have to be there for Chavo del Ocho. But at least like some mannerism with the hands, like the CCCC and stuff like this. It's good to understand like, oh, this comes from this TV show. So yeah, very important Mexican knowledge, the Chavo del Ocho. Another tip for learning a language, you have to adapt like a character. So for me, the Mexican is like the surfer guy, like very chill. French, I'm a bit shy. I don't think I have a character there. I'm always like, bonjour, and stuff like this. But in English, like the Valley girl, like the, oh my God, that's like so cute. Like this girly helped me learn English. And in German, I always tell my students, like, just be a little bit upset. Just be like 20% angry, and then you have it. For German, you have to be a little bit angry, or you can start being very angry and then work your way down. But just every time you're upset, just talk a little bit of German. It's perfect pronunciation.
What are your kind of like the personalities that you've adopted in the languages that you speak?
So I think, as I said, like in French, I'm a bit shy because my French suffered through all the other languages. So I try not to speak too much, or like every time there's another French person in the room, I always tell people, like, if you don't speak French, I sound amazing. If you do speak French, you'll know I'm not. That's why I take, like, I want to talk French, but I'm very afraid of it. And in Swiss German, I think, like, I hate it a little bit because I have so many, I sound very, like, I have so many languages stuck in my head, but I'm not bragging. It's a curse. It's a blessing and a curse because, you know, like, I don't know if it's in America, you have the meme about the girl who goes to another country for a while and she comes back and she's like, I cannot speak English anymore. I'm just so international now. And that's how I sound in Swiss German, and I hate it because every second word I'm like, I don't remember this word. Let me say it in English. And it's like, let me say it in English. And in German, I think through my friendships here with German people, I've become more direct. So in Swiss German, I'm still like a little bit like, if you want to, we can do this. And in High German, in Standard German, I'm just like, no, I don't want to do this. I had enough. And and I think, for people learning German, it's just like, you have to be direct, and you have to be like, when you're angry, you're direct. You're like, I hate this. And perfect German. In Mexican, I'm very laid back, I think. So because I don't know how to be formal, so I'm just like going all in with the whatever you want to do. Ahorita lo hacemos, yeah, va, and stuff. It's also another thing. I don't know how it is for you. Fighting in another language. My God, if I want to be angry in Spanish, like half of my anger is just I don't get the words out, and I get so frustrated. Yeah, it's like me tratas tan feo, and in my head I'm like, no, I have better words than this. I'm smart.
Feo, level 1, grade 1 Spanish. I get what you mean. So when you are angry, what language do you express yourself the best in? Like you get every word out, like immediately, exactly how you wanted to say it.
My God, I don't know. I think maybe I try not to get angry, but I don't think that's good. I don't think that's healthy. You should get angry in life. But I think maybe English is easier and German. Yeah. And in Spanish, I'm just like, too late. I'm like, whatever, I don't care anymore. But in my head, I care a lot.
Just that passive aggressive. No pasa nada.
My God, I love Mexico. I love the people, but they don't get angry. They never directly like, hey, you pissed me off. They're just like, oh, fine. And you have to be like, is everything okay? Like, did I do something wrong? Blah, 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 blah. And then like 3 years later, they're like, Wendy, remember the one time like in October 2017 when you didn't say hi when I was on the street? That was actually really rude. It's like, what? I didn't know. Why did you keep that? Why didn't you tell me? My God, this is something.
Why are you telling me 3 years after the fact?
Like, there's nothing I can do now. I have a question. How is it for you? When you have to fight in French, can you do that?
No, I haven't gotten there. I feel like if I do master expressing particular emotions in French, I think the most satisfying might be anger, because it's just like, just be angry but fancy, you know? And I've watched quite a lot of like French films, and you know, there's those really passionate scenes where they're, you know, fighting, and like the lovers or the friends or, you know, the gangs or whatever, and I'm like, I really want to be able to do that one day, just like to stick someone up, but in French.
Right? It's also like, I think, two things. First of all, so when you said the thing about the passion in the fighting, I was thinking about when Mexicans get angry by a text message, and I didn't get it because they get very formal. They're like, querido, no sé, querido Rumis, quería decir que el día del... 𝒔𝒕𝒇, and they write like a long paragraph, and I'm like, I read it, and I'm like, that's very nice, that's very formal, like, oh, thank you for noticing. And then I would like go talk to my roommates, and they were like, no, she was actually really upset. Like, this is a sign that she's really angry. It's like, the being angry in Spanish, in writing, for me, it felt formal, but now I realize it's when they're upset. Whereas like the French, like the fire and the fighting. And it's also a thing like communication with your partner. I'm going to turn this podcast, like I'm going to ask you now. This is my podcast now.
It's a takeover. It's a hostile takeover. Okay,
but like,
go for it.
But like the communication with your partner, when your partner speaks another language, certain things like intimacy, like really saying your emotions, be it positive or just having a discussion about things, it's sometimes very frustrating because it's a very close person to you. What do you think of, like, how is it for you and your partner?
Damn. Well,
like deep topics about your relationship. I have friends who date people from other like they're like from Switzerland and the partner is from France, or like from Germany and have a boyfriend from Mexico. And it's always the same, like having deep conversations, it's sometimes very hard because also the cultural difference in the relationship and the language barrier.
You're correct. There is that language barrier, then there's the cultural aspect of it, and then I would add into that mix the just the personality. Sometimes it's just a matter of character. Like there are people who are who might still be French or still be Mongolian or still be Mexican, who are maybe more the personality type that I need for a particular type of interaction, and that might be based a little bit on culture, but a lot of it is based on personality. And for me, I think what's been the most challenging, and you might relate being from all these countries because we so fancy, we just flip our hair. It's a safe space here. We can be multicultural here. But yeah, I think between Andres and I particularly, we both speak Spanish. I lied. Where did that come from? We speak English together, and hopefully, little by little, that turns into French because there are days when I want to speak more French in the house. But for the most part, it's in English, and English, in my opinion, is a very scientific language. It's a language that I use a lot, in my perspective, like evaluation, to like make observations. So if anything, English helps us both detach from the issue and look at it objectively. Does that make any sense?
It makes sense. It makes I had this talk with some friends as well, that it's like saying certain things in English is far more like saying I love you in English. For me, it feels like it's nice, but it's not like it's from somewhere from the body. It doesn't have to be from the heart. It's a little bit from the heart. No, don't get me wrong. Wait, let me...
It's from the foot. It comes from the foot.
Some part of me loves you, but I don't know where it is now. No, but I'm more detached to English, so I can saying I love you, saying positive affirmations is very easy in English. Oh my God, this is so nice and whatever. But saying it in my mother tongue, I get very oh my God, I can't get it out. It's very personal to me. Saying it in another language is because I think I don't know. Maybe for me, Swiss German, I do talk less about emotions. So when I have to mention emotions in Swiss German, I'm I can't do it. I have to say it in English. That's better. Yeah. So maybe something in this direction.
Yeah. And the topic of the I love yous, I have spoken to a lot of people who, maybe speak Mongolian, Spanish, or any other language. And for the most part, they say that I love you gets thrown around like good morning in English. So it's not as meaningful. Whereas in Spanish we say te quiero mucho a lot, which I like that there's that difference.
I have a complaint about te quiero, but go on.
No, I want to hear the complaint. What's the complaint with te quiero mucho? I need to hear it now.
I feel like the te quiero and te amo is so confusing, innit? Even more in dating, you can date me gustas, te quiero, te amo. Te amo, I get it. Te amo is for God and your mom. Alright. And if you really, this is the person I'm gonna marry, whatever. But the te quiero is oh, we went out on 2 dates, te quiero. Or we've been dating for 5 years, te quiero. And it's where are we? Where is... In the te quiero, I need some more category. If you're gonna do categories, I need some more. In which te quiero are we? Also with friends, sometimes I say amiga, te amo, and she's te quiero, and I'm
I felt that in my heart. Who said that? I just want to talk.
So I never know which one to use. I always feel I come off too strong or I come off too little. Either way, I cannot win with the me gustas, what does that mean? Physically or emotionally? What? Yeah, I don't know.
What are we on? Yeah. That's interesting. Well, I feel that's just going back to the theme of being multilingual and multicultural. I think a lot of people sort of have the misconception that we're just good at languages, that we're just good at cultures, that we're just these cultural chameleons and stuff. But I don't know about you, but for me, it's actually just really confusing because I have all the right words and then I don't know the levels of appropriate, what is appropriate, what's the register I'm using, and am I being too friendly, am I coming off too strong?
Yeah, I think I have this, even in German, sometimes I come off colder, even though I grew up with German, it's been in my life, my whole life, basically. But yeah, I had a good point, but I forgot what I wanted to say, but something about this, Wait, can you repeat the last thing you said so I can maybe grab off of that?
I said something to the effect of not knowing what the correct level is in particular languages.
I remember like when people are like, what language do you dream? What language do you think? I'm like, I don't think, period. Mm-hmm. No thoughts, head empty. I just, whatever comes out of my mouth, I don't know. Even this podcast, like, things just come out and hopefully they make sense at some point. But yeah, I'm surprised by every sentence I do in every language. I'm just as surprised as you are by the things that come out of my mouth most of the time.
In a really strange way, I know exactly what you mean, because there are times where I kind of wake up from reality and I'm like watching myself, hearing myself speak English, and I'm like, why do I speak this language? Like, why do I know the next word that needs to come out to make this sentence work? And that happens to me in Spanish. It happens to me in Mongolian. Like, I'll be saying something in Spanish, like talking to the guy at the OXXO, and then I'm like, this man sees me as a Mexican, and I'm saying this word like this. Like, that's so interesting. Like, I'll have this moment of just complete lucidity. Same with Mongolian. I'll be like, I know that this word is written like this in Cyrillic, like, but why do I know that? Like, I have these weird existential moments.
I have this a lot with Spanish when I talk to my roommates or I talk to someone on the street, and I just in the middle of the conversation, I realize that I'm speaking Spanish and I understand what they're saying, and I'm like, this is crazy. How is this possible? How am I doing this? So no idea.
Yeah. I think it's a sign of like knowing a language well enough as well. Like, I think that being able to just go on autopilot and having to switch the language without even realizing it, I think is a sign of some sort of mastery of the language.
There's also like the thing, like the gut feeling. Like a lot of my students, I tell them like sometimes it's not that you have to master the grammar, like not at all. You don't have to learn everything by heart. You just have to have like a gut feeling of like, oh, this was wrong. I don't know why, but this doesn't taste right. This doesn't sound right. Like something was wrong in this sentence. I can't point it out, but it's wrong. And this is when you master the language, when you can just like have a gut feeling about the language and what should come next, I think.
Which is like you've internalized, you've heard the language enough, you've had so much passive listening, you've seen the word so many times, maybe you've read the book so many times that you just know this is not the order that it goes in. I really like that term, gut feeling, because it is a feeling at the end. Also, not to take away from the hard work that it is to learn a language, but there is, I feel like it's when you're working on something and you enter that flow. You know, when it just, you just start vibing with it. I think maybe that's what you're describing, and I get it.
Yeah, it's also like you have to enjoy it, I think. I think Drew said it in his, that you have to have fun while doing it. Because I have this sometimes with French. I like French movies. And have you seen Plan Cœur? Like,
no, I need to get your list of recommendations, because you have some really good recommendations. Like White Lotus was bomb. I loved it.
Oh yeah, it's such a mess. I love it. But no, there's like French people. They have a lot of movies, and most of them are not that great. But like, don't tell Andreas I said that. Also, the people listening to this podcast, don't tell him that I said that. No, there's like some movies that come up and they're just like really, really good French movies or series. Or like they just, for me specifically, they're just really good because I love a hot mess, just as White Lotus and Fleabag. Yeah.
I did start Fleabag. I got to the first episode and I just didn't know that she was going to break that fourth wall. And I just felt like I had just gotten out of the shower and I just felt really seen. And I was just like, I don't know. It just, I didn't get to the second episode because I felt like she saw me. I don't know how to describe that. Anyway, no, White Lotus was a great recommendation. Great recommendation. What was your favorite season?
I think the second season, because the first one I was still like, everything that was happening was so taken aback, and I was like, oh, this, what? And he does what now in the luggage? Oh my god. And the second season I got like used to the mess, and I'm like, I'm here for the mess. I want to see it get messy.
Going to season 1, I really enjoyed the commentary on race, and now we're going to enter, we're not going to stay in this topic for too long, but I'm curious, what did you think about the commentary on race in season 1?
Which one? There's like multiple, I think.
There was many. Let's Kai, the boy that worked in the hotel, and his relationship with the friend that was tagging along in the trip. What did you think about all that?
I think I was very devastated. I was like, no, Kai, baby boy, don't do it. So I think him and the masseuse, I forgot her name, it was so devastating because it also felt kind of like real. I think certain things, even more if you are like a person of color, I don't know how you feel about it, but sometimes you see it on TV all the time. It's always the same story. You're like, this person of color is not gonna win this. They're gonna like struggle through this. You're like, I don't want to see this. I just want to have like my little people of color being happy and like not all the stereotypical things happen to them. So I think the Kai one, like I was devastated because it felt like, yeah, it could happen that a girlie just comes, like a rich girlie just shows up and is like, oh my god, you guys are so poor. And then she leaves again. And it's like, oh, it was good, but it was also so sad. What do you think?
I thought it was super sad. I feel like that was probably the hardest part of that whole that season for me to watch, particularly because my thoughts on race have kind of like not changed. I still feel like a person of color. I am a person of color, and that is made abundantly clear to me by the certain things that are said to me, and it's not always like with ill will, you know. It's not always like they're trying to make me feel bad, but there are certain things that you pick up on in conversations. I'm like, that you wouldn't have said that to me if I looked different. Period. Yes. And I think I've grown from being a 20-something-year-old that wanted to set the world on fire, taken that anger and sort of grown up, so to speak. Like, that anger is valid. I think it comes from somewhere. I'm not trying to negate it. But I guess there's only so much resentment you can hold as a person. And I think now I'm 32, and I'm trying to sort of not carry that around with me anymore. So I try to validate that sadness and that anger that we experience as people of color, and try to just balance it out with the things that I can control and the privileges I do have today.
It is something like, I think that's why in TV shows I don't enjoy watching when it's about it always feels like if someone of color is there, it's like, all right, for example, a black person is there, it's gonna be about money issues. Or like for Kai, like, all right, so it's gonna like, he's not gonna like, he has to do his job, which he has to do with the people who stole his land. So it's always the same kind of runaround. I'm like, I'm kind of tired of these storylines, honestly, and I think it's just for mental health reasons that I don't enjoy them anymore. So but it's also an important thing that you mentioned, because I think a lot of I don't know about you, but like growing up mixed race, I have a lot of mixed race friends, and I think that goes like hand in hand, that we just found each other, and there was like the general resentment towards like one race that you are when you're like a teenager or like early 20s, and then you slowly grow out of it, but you have to like, I don't know, I feel like most people who have mixed race go through this stage at some point.
With you, which half was it that you were like a bit resentful of, and then you were like, okay, well, that's gonna change now because of time?
I think when I was a child, I was resentful of like the African side, because it made me stand out, and I was like, oh, I hate this attention. But now, not now, but when I was like early, like teenager or early 20s, it was against the Swiss side. And I was like, all right, if you don't want me to be part of you, I don't want to be part of this either. So, and then what really helped was, as I said, traveling and being like, oh dang, I'm really Swiss, so I am part of this. So yeah, I think it's also nice if you have like these kind of cultural issues with yourself, that you just like have to see different cultures, and then you also realize who you are on the inside.
I think that being mixed does come with its difficulties, but I think also we've been afforded such a wonderful privilege now, like to travel and to be able to connect with people. You being in Mexico and being able to make your friends here and connect and like kind of get to appreciate your Swiss side and everything, like, do you think you're going to continue this trend now that you go back? Because you are going back. Like, how do you think your experience abroad will affect your future now when you leave?
I think, yeah, it's a huge privilege that I had the chance to come to Mexico, honestly. And yeah, it's also like now I love being mixed race. Like it's just the greatest thing. No, because with ups and downs, but it's also like certain things that you don't even realize anymore that things are happening. For example, my German friends, they sometimes are like, people are staring at us. What's going on? It's like, yeah, you're white in Mexico. Like, what do you expect? You are like the attraction of the street where there's only native people. And as a mixed person, I don't know about you, but I'm very used to it. I don't even notice it anymore. I'm just like, whatever. And I think a good thing that I'm going to take home is because in Switzerland, I always feel like you get stuck in the rat race. You're like, I have to have a job, I have to earn money, I have to have a house, a car, a kid. Like, I'm almost 35, and I didn't do it yet. I have to like do it now or never. And here in Mexico, even more traveling to like Mexico or even from Mexico to Cuba. Sorry, I have to finish one topic before it moves to the next one. Even coming to Mexico, life is just so much more than work, and life is just so much more than just what I have to do so I can compete with the other people around me. It's just like, no, I'm enjoying life, and every day is a surprise. My friends have time, like we all have time for each other, and everything is so spontaneous day to day, and it's just, you enjoy it so much more. The same with Senegal. When I came back, I was like, I have warm water, I have toilet paper, I have electricity. This is great. This is the life. I don't need more. So I think I'll try to take that home to Switzerland to be like more like enjoying daily life. And yeah, the thing with Cuba is a different topic, so I don't know if it fits in here anymore. So, but it's a thing that even when I was in Cuba from Mexico, talking to people from there, I appreciated more like the luxuries that we have in Mexico. So I think each country you go to and wherever you're from, you can always go to a different country and you're like, oh my god, my country is actually pretty cool for this and that. Like even if you say like, oh, I'm Mexican and I can't get out of here, the food is the bomb. And it's a huge country and it's so pretty and the people are so nice. So there's always something to appreciate about your country, I think.
Yes, yes, yes to everything, girl. I really like what you said just now. As a matter of fact, I'm going to make a little quotable about that because it's so beautiful. You are not 35.
No, I'm not.
Okay. I was about to say, I'm like,
while I was saying it, I was like, oh, maybe I should mention my real age. Fuck it. I'm 29. Okay. Yeah, but it's also like the pre-30 thing where it's like, what have I done with my life? And but it doesn't really matter. Yeah. I had fun. It's like a thing. At the end of the day, I had fun, and that's the most important thing.
A Hannah Montana song comes to mind.
Ooh, yeah.
We get the best of both worlds. Chill it out, take it slow. Then you rock out the show. We get the best of both worlds. You mix it all together, and you know you got the best of both worlds. We did it. We did it. On that lovely note, that's today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. And yeah, see you in the next one.